It's great to meet you. I'm looking forward to getting in to your respective roles in this. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You bet. So let's get into the new single. Before we do that, though, one of the things that really affected the way that we approach life, and especially musicians, was 5 years ago, this pandemic changed so
Mm-hmm.
many things. How
Mm-hmm.
did you get through that, and how has it affected the way that you do things and create now?
I'll let you answer that.
Um, at the risk of offending everyone
Yeah.
on the
All right. Our
planet,
first interview, and we're about to offend everyone. We're
no,
about to get
I
canceled before we
actually,
even get started.
I
This is
actually,
ratings.
I enjoyed getting to stay home and play my guitar and
Mm-hmm.
compose
Mm-hmm.
and not have to go to work and not
Mm-hmm.
have to interact with people for a while.
Yeah,
It was that was kind of a woodshed,
yeah,
especially with the Kansas City history, Charlie Parker and all those guys woodshedding. I got the woodshed,
Mm-hmm.
and I probably wrote 40 or 50 songs in 2020, 2021. So the pandemic was actually really good. It was a reset button.
Yeah.
I quit my job as an ancient and medieval studies professor at UW Green Bay and decided to just be a musician. So
And I quit my job at UWGB as a performing arts coordinator to be a musician again after having been one and then getting a real job. Now I'm back to being a musician again.
starving
Yeah, and
musicians.
we
yeah,
actually moved
Yeah,
from Green Bay to the Madison area during the pandemic. So
yeah,
I don't know how, you know, I think we all suffered the consequences on a grander scale, but personally, it was a time of reset for
yeah.
us.
It was nice to be able to stay at home and play music,
Yeah.
just live music all day long
Hmm.
instead of having to go and be a college professor for a while.
Hmm.
So
yeah.
I
Well,
I
and
loved
I
it.
think that's been kind of the resounding answer I've gotten. There was a lot of,
Huh.
well, there
Interesting.
was, yeah, it's wild because a lot of people, it was either a reset or it was a recalibration or the whole like moving at like warp speed kind of slowed down a little bit, which
Hmm.
is a part of it.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I remember seeing a skit that SNL did, and it got a lot of flack. And it was all of these adults that had busy lives and kids, and and one of them, I can't remember who it was, but they got COVID, and in slow motion they were jumping up and down on their bed just celebrating.
Right.
Right. So there was all these people and people freaked out, of course, but we live in this hypersensitive world now where
Yeah,
comedy is, of all things, comedy's under fire. But they
I
were
know.
just saying sometimes we adults need a break too,
Right.
Hmm.
especially when you cater the kids and everybody else. It's like it was the moment. But at any rate, it was. And I think for me going through that, I ramped up my interviews and to be able to talk to the
Hmm.
community.
Yeah.
And I had my
Hmm.
kids with me and they were in middle school. So I was putting interviews on speaker and everybody was really positive and strong, no matter how bad it got. Now it got a little darker in New York because everybody
Yeah.
Yeah.
was, stacked up on top of each other and listening to
Right.
a horn or music for like a week is cute, but then it
Hmm.
ran out. It was like,
I lived in Italy for a while, and so the pandemic hit Italy really hard.
oh,
And seeing
yeah.
all those people in their small apartments singing to each other from the balconies, that was heartwarming, but also really
She
sad.
also
Yeah.
had friends who wanted the people on their balconies to shut up.
Yeah.
They got tired
True.
of listening to it
After a
after
while, I was
a
like,
while.
okay, we
Exactly.
get it. We get it. Thank you. But like, can we just like not get sick now and leave?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, there was one interview I was doing in Spain, and he started
Oh,
apologizing because they were doing that thing where they were clanking and hitting pots and pans when the
yeah.
nurses and the doctors were going out. And I was like, no, 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 put your phone out there. This is
Right.
this
Hmm.
is this is a period piece. We want to find out
Hmm.
what's going on, and it's a part of what
Hmm.
we were all living through, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Tough times. I mean, it was tough times, and we're still feeling the effects of that. I think the prices just skyrocketed after the pandemic and just never
uh-huh.
came down.
Yeah.
Housing market just went crazy.
Yep.
That hasn't changed. So yeah, I think we're still living with the effects of it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of folks who made their living off of gigs and um, teaching and things like that during the pandemic, if they weren't able to go online somehow,
Yeah.
the pandemic hit them pretty hard
Yeah,
because that's their living.
it did.
But I was at a transition period where I was quitting one job and
And we were
we didn't
making
have an
money, so we were
income
okay.
from the
Yeah.
from the music that much
Back
at the
then we
time,
were making money.
Yeah.
right?
Now it's another story.
Yeah. Now we have to figure out how to make money
That's
now.
it.
It's
You got
like,
to,
what can I sell?
yeah, exactly. Kidneys, old records, you know.
Right.
So, and it's interesting because Emmett Cohen just became a superstar during this period. You know, there was
Hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
right
Yeah.
that were
Yep.
really shining examples of using this. So let's get into the music. But before we do that, how did you two meet? How did this musical union happen? Take me back to the Alpha and the evolution to now.
He was living in Green Bay. I was transitioning from classical to jazz and was kind of anchorless for a while. So I came home back to Madison where my parents have lived. And my cousins were living up in Green Bay right around the corner from this guy. And they kept saying, you got to meet this guy. You got to meet this guy. You got to meet this guy. So finally I met this guy. And he avoided me for a year. It's true. He avoided
I
me.
had to make a wise decision, you know?
Yeah.
Right. I get it. I get
And
it.
there's no do-overs, there's no returns, no refunds.
Uh-huh.
So, but
It's
so he was playing well you were playing guitar. He was also an ad hoc professor of jazz, not ad hoc. What was
So,
it?
so I both
Yeah.
had, I was a associate professor in the English and humanities departments, but I was also the adjunct jazz guitar instructor at
gotcha.
UW Green Bay for over a decade.
Hmm.
So it was, I was wearing many hats there. Um, and yeah, I had a lot of students, and one of my students knew her cousin, and
Yeah.
therefore everybody had to meet up.
I guess I should be clear that my cousin who introduced us is a fantastic jazz manouche guitar player.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
they had a jazz manouche band up in Green Bay, and they invited me to come sing with them.
Yeah.
And when I joined the band, he quit the band.
Well, I had another band
So,
too.
so I actually learned how to do jazz that way. Eventually, he came around.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what were early experiences for you two separately? What really inspired you to want to get into music and to evolve to this jazz point?
Mm.
Well, I got bit by the jazz bug very early, like age 14, 15, before I could
Hmm.
drive.
Yeah.
Um,
He doesn't know a single band from the 80s.
well, I do. I know a few.
No.
I know Van Halen.
Right.
I liked Van Halen and Led Zeppelin and those guys.
Yeah.
But then I heard, Al Di Meola and Wes Montgomery, and I just kept going backwards, and so I liked jazz, the feel of it way better than rock and roll. And plus, it was quieter, and my dad didn't yell at me. And
Yeah. That always helps. You know, you know what was interesting about the pandemic is I was moving from one town to another, and I moved to Lee
Oh, wow.
Summit. So Pat Metheny, every time I would mention Lee Summit, they were like, "Oh," because it's just
Right.
it's a bigger town now. It's grown quite a bit. But was he an influence? Was his arc an influence in
A
there?
little bit, yeah. I mean, I listened to Pat. He was in that fusion group that was
Yeah,
my transition. Pat Metheny, Al Di Meola, John McLaughlin, all of those guys. But I wanted to hear what those guys had been listening to.
yeah,
And once I heard that, there was no going back.
yeah,
When I heard Wes Montgomery and Kenny Burrell and Charlie Christian and Jim Hall, my namesake Hall, and Django Reinhardt,
Yeah.
the fusion stuff was it was too loud.
yeah,
Uh, Once again, I kind of went more acoustic and more old school really early, and I really haven't left that. I mean, I'm the kind of guy who plugs a guitar straight into an amplifier, no pedals, um, no weird sounds. It needs to sound like a guitar.
yeah.
Hmm.
So, so
Well, and Django's just about as old school as you'll get,
right,
and
unamplified in a lot of cases.
yeah.
Yeah,
And the fact that, he went through that house fire and had limited mobility
Hmm.
right,
biologically and what he did, it's crazy,
right,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
right.
There was a Woody Allen film, Sweet and Low Down. Did you see
One
Yep.
of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So good. So good.
yeah.
So you came from a classical world, right? Is
I
that what you
did. I
Okay.
did. So I was more of a I always saw myself as more of a performer than a musician, really. I mean, I started piano when I was young. I did get my vocal diploma from the World Conservatory of Music, so I am an educated musician, but I always wanted to be on stage. So I thought it would be a good idea to go into opera, like everybody else. So, but what ended up happening is I moved to Italy, and then for a lot of reasons, the economy, personally, that kind of died down after about 11 years. So I moved back and I moved to New York. And I was just like, I'll just take anything. I just need to work. So I actually got a manager who was really amazing. And she just sent me on every audition that she could send me on. It didn't matter. I mean, it was just like, it was Carlotta and Phantom or some whatever. She just would send me.
Yeah.
And she ended up sending me on a lot of auditions that were kind of jazz oriented. And I realized that I was really enjoying that more than any of the classical stuff she was sending me on. And eventually I booked a cruise ship contract, which was huge. That was a big break for me. Um, and we had, oh my God, how many shows we have? I don't remember how many shows we did. I got hired to do the classical show,
Hmm.
but my favorite show was Songbook, which was all the jazz standards from the songbook. And I'm like, this is really my genre. I really want to start doing this. This is really where I belong. And I actually really like my voice better in that genre. I mean, sometimes when I listen to me singing classically, it's a little harsh. I feel like I can apply all the things I learned singing classically to jazz, but I have a wider palette to choose from color wise. Um, and I started singing them with my cousin's band, and I sounded like an opera singer trying to sing jazz when I
She
first
did.
started. I did. I admit it. It's taken me a while. It's taken me a good 10 years. But then I've been doing this now for 10 years
At least a decade.
to
Yeah.
to just make colors, vocal colors.
Yeah. But opera's amazing. I remember going to Italy back in 2000. I had a pen
Yeah.
pal in high
Oh,
school, and I went
I was
out.
there. That's when I moved there.
Okay, yeah. So I went to Rome. I was staying next to St. Peter's Square, and I was exhausted. I
Yeah.
walked and got lost, and I could
Yeah, it's what you
barely
do in Italy.
ask for the bathroom, dove de bagno, and they're all laughing at me. American, the hell is the matter with you? But I remember I went to a Vivaldi concerto, and I saw an operatic singer, and it just it was one of the first times listening to music live that I actually I was like, what is this substance coming out of my eyes? I was like,
Oh,
it was
wow.
involuntary. But I remember
Huh.
growing up, if I came home and my dad was playing Pavarotti, I knew something was wrong. I was like, uh-oh.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Oh my
Well,
God.
you're a paisano,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, yeah. So
So,
he was 100%. So when like Sinatra, you would walk in, you're like, okay, it's fine. But if Pavarotti was playing, you're like,
that
oh
is
shit.
hilarious. That is so funny.
Yeah,
Yeah, Italians have a fantastic vocal tradition. I mean, they really do.
yeah,
They really, really know how to sing.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I am a snob that way about vocal technique. I am a snob that way. And that vocal technique, you can apply it to any form of singing.
Sure. Well, but the thing about that, the thing that's interesting about that crossover between classical and jazz, like even with Charlie Parker, there's a wonderful historian in Kansas City, Chuck Haddock. He's like, his brain's like a steel trap. He knows everything about Bird. And he talked about how he really, like, Bird was really big into getting to the classical composers,
Hmm.
Stravinsky, Vivaldi, all Beethoven, all these guys, and reconstructing that and kind of stretching it out into this jazz lexicon, which is probably why
Mhm.
bebop came around. He was just
Right.
taking
Oh.
language, right? And just
Hmm.
rearranging all of these things, and it
Hmm.
kind of became this discordant, beautiful, brilliant thing, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I really think that music's a language,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
and we're kind of writing our own language.
Yeah.
yeah.
We don't really sound like anybody else, which has kind of been fun. We don't want to sound like anybody else, but at the same time, in terms of marketing and like getting people to like come hear us,
Right.
it's a little trickier.
Yeah, I totally get that. I totally get
Hmm.
that, which is why I think interviews and jazz radio is very essential that it stays around and it's a part of
Hmm.
this entire organism
Yeah.
because people
Yep.
need to know about it for sure.
And we're very grateful for people like you to give people like us a platform just to talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. I love the music. I'm just standing on the shoulders of giants, so I'm just trying to do my little part here.
As are we.
Yeah, right. So before we get too far ahead of ourselves, talk to me about the new single. Talk to me about what's going on.
Well, you wrote it.
Originally, this was for the jazz manouche, gypsy jazz, however you want to call it. I mean, Django called it gypsy jazz, so why not?
Yeah.
Um, and it was called the B minor waltz, and
Mhm.
it was a waltz in B minor. So that's why it got that name. And it had
Yeah.
no lyrics until I met her.
Right.
And then I had to start adding lyrics to existing songs and writing new songs. And
Mhm.
so I thought, well, it's supposed to be, French jazz from the 1930s.
Mhm.
What about the Moulin Rouge?
Mhm.
She's been there. I've never been
Mhm.
there. So I wrote some lyrics for her to sing on it, and that's how it became the Moulin Rouge instead of just the B minor waltz. But you'll
Yeah.
hear it. It's very
Yeah.
gypsy jazz-ish.
Mhm.
When you add the drums, which we did for the recording,
Mhm.
it takes on a different feel.
Mhm.
It becomes almost a 6/8, a
Yeah.
jazz 6/8 rather than a 3/4. And it doesn't feel quite as stiff as the old La Pump.
Mhm.
So yeah, it has evolved from pretty much a straight ahead sort of gypsy jazz tradition type of song to one with lyrics and drums that has become more modern jazz.
Yeah, and that was my attempt at improv.
Yeah, I had to write it
That
out
was a really
first.
early attempt at improv.
It,
So I
it's all
wrote it out,
Stuck.
thought
It
about it.
stuck,
Yeah.
so
yeah.
we kept it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: what working together in a musical sense? What is the most surprising thing you've each discovered about each other in this process of working on
Oh,
music?
that's a great question. Um, I think Stefan has a really particular process. And I think Stefan realized that I have a very particular process. And I think we've had to just learn to speak each other's musical languages. And I don't think that's been very hard.
What is my process?
You, it's just, I'm going to throw this at you,
Oh yeah, I do
and you
know.
better be ready to catch it.
Right.
So I've gotten used to that. And he's gotten used to the fact that I'm coming from a classical background. I'm not the greatest improviser. I'm getting better. I work on it a lot. But I like things just a little bit more structured.
She
Yeah.
likes to prepare for things like
Yeah.
gigs, um, a little more than I do. I would
Yeah.
show up to the gig and just here's a list, let's call stuff off the list. But
Hmm.
she actually painstakingly
I
organizes the gig list so that we don't have too many slow songs in a row
no,
or
we
too
don't
many songs in the same key in the row,
we don't have any songs in the same
and
key.
and she organizes it by her voice. These are
Yeah.
lower in my range, so we're going to do them earlier, and then these are higher, and we'll do these later. And actually, she's really good at crafting the gig list.
Thanks.
But I would,
I mean, if you're singing for 2 hours straight,
yeah,
there has to be a little bit of method to it.
yeah.
You can't start out with the high one and do the low one and then do the shouty one and then hope to have a voice 2 hours later.
But I discovered pretty early on that I couldn't. I mean, can I curse? I can't do a
Yeah.
half-ass. I can't give her a half-ass song.
Sure.
If I give her something that I just dashed off, I've got an idea or something,
There's
and I
a
write her a kind of a simple vocal line, she's going to kick it back to me and say, "This is too simple. It's boring."
mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, I almost have to woo her with a song.
Yeah.
I have to really create something interesting and new that she hasn't heard before, that is not necessarily technically challenging and brilliant, but it has to be interesting. It can't
Yeah.
just be a simple song. Um,
We'll find ways to make it interesting.
we do
Like I
that.
will embellish the vocal line or you know, but he writes very interesting most of the time, writes very interesting lyrics about, well, I mean, I've written some lyrics that aren't very interesting, so
That's
um
not true.
well, our first single was a little bit uninteresting,
Usually,
but
usually
there's a
the
lot of depth to what he writes. He really gets being the former humanities professor, he really gets into people and life and how we relate to one another and what's important. And we even cross over to political and social issues
it's
quite a bit, which is
kind
more
of hard not
interesting.
to.
It,
Yeah,
it is hard not to. And I find that more interesting to sing than like
just a straight ahead love
boring.
song.
Yeah, like we have one of those. We have
Yeah.
one love song. That's plenty.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. There's a lot of them out there.
right.
So
Yeah.
if anybody wants to pick up the single, they want to catch you live, any of the good business, where do they go?
Well, Moulin Rouge just came out today on Spotify, although I'm having trouble with the link. I'm not sure if it's populated yet or not. So just find us on Spotify. We have a recorded album that I'm releasing in the as a waterfall. You've probably heard the waterfall release process
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
So that's what I'm doing. So Moulin Rouge is our second single. So you
yeah.
can find Curve Veloci, which is our first single, and Moulin Rouge, which is our second single, out on Spotify now. Um, the album will be released next year. You can always go to my website, www.marisabalistreri.com, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, to find us. Our next gig, if anybody's listening from Madison, will be at the Harmony Bar on December 11th.
Okay. I will put all of these links in the show notes. It was so great to talk to you. Thank you so much for
Oh,
taking.
it was so great talking to you. Thank you
Thank you.
so much for having us.
Absolutely. And the one last